Hi, and welcome to the Ask Dr. Angela podcast with everyone's favorite OBGYN, Dr. Angela Jones. Have you ever been too embarrassed or shy to ask your own doctor about your, girl parts? Well, you've come to the right place to get straight answers. Feel free to ask Dr. Angela anything women's health related. Obstetrics and gynecology? She keeps it real. Pregnancy? She's been there, done that. Menopause? She'll get you through. Young or old, Dr. Angela's got you covered, girl. Now here's Dr. Angela.
What's good, people? This is Dr. Angela, everyone's favorite OBGYN, and I would like to officially welcome you to episode 287 of the Ask Dr. Angela podcast. So this weekend was insane for me. I mean, it was like crazy. Stuff for the brand is definitely blowing up. This past weekend, I spent in the Big Apple, NYC, and I was there for one of my partners, Astroglide, and they were kicking off a campaign, entitled Life's Too Short to Fake It, Own Your O, as in orgasm. Meanwhile, in the midst of all these activities, of course, I met a lot of amazing people. I had the honor and privilege of hanging out with the lovely ladies at Improper Etiquette, Leah Mauve and the Laura Stiles. They were amazing. I was on their podcast talking sex life and everything in between. And so, again, that was probably like the highlight of my weekend. But between doing amazing events with Astroglide and certainly taking it to the streets on Sunday, I was in Grand Central Station, Times Square, Washington Park, fielding questions from you, the public, about orgasms, how good your sex is or maybe not. And I was really amazed at how willing people were to talk to me. It was nice because I was in the position of asking when usually, you all are asking me the questions. So some really interesting facts. First of all, forget the wage gap. And we know that there's a huge wage gap discrepancy between males and females, but there's even there's a huger gap between male and female as pertains to orgasms. Roughly 75% of men say that they orgasm every time that they have sex, and a whopping 33% of women say that they orgasm when they have sex. Are you flipping kidding me? I was like, get the fuck out of here. Are you serious? That's it? And so, of course, the question is, why? And some of the feedback that I got back from the streets was really kind of interesting. I got everything from, not being, aware of female anatomy, specifically women not being aware of their own anatomy. How about men not being aware of female anatomy? Education really is huge with regards to this. The other thing is, how about communication and people and couples and partners being willing to talk to one another and say, this is what's good for me. This is not what's good for me. This works. This doesn't work. People are really kind of embarrassed to have these kinds of conversations. And certainly, some of it is cultural. Women are brought up to be desired and, to please their man. Women culturally aren't raised with the same kind of viewpoints about sex. And for men, you just get yours, get off, and then you're done. And then, the girl's like, what? Is that it? So some other really interesting facts are that 80% of women fake orgasm. I'm like, are you effing kidding me? Seriously? And so certainly when I was talking to the people on the streets, and, surprisingly enough, and really not so surprisingly, we're in flipping New York, a lot of international players. We met people from all over the world. The UK was represented, South Africa, Australia, Eastern Europe, all over the place. We were talking to folks, that were in town visiting. And so, women were like, yeah, sometimes we fake it because we just want it to be over with. I've heard that one before. And surprisingly enough, a lot of the guys, said that sometimes they fake it too because, they were just ready to be over with. Maybe there was also some alcohol involved. Who knew? Another really interesting fact, and again, this was, all of this was completely blowing me away, was that most men overestimate their female partner's pleasure. I don't know that I was really that surprised by that. That's kind of like an ego thing, I think. Most men want to say that they're good and, all of these things. I actually met a couple of guys that I interviewed that were like, oh yeah, my female partner is always satisfied. I even had one guy tell me that, once you go black, you don't go back. And I just kind of chuckled at that. But the other really interesting thing, I was doing this event with Astroglide, and, they're a lube company. They make lube. They came across some studies recently that suggested that lubrication might, enhance women's sexual pleasure. How? Not just women, but men as well. It's like, that hand job gets extra good with that extra lube. Or, you can use that lube, for toy play or, any other kind of play. And you can feel free to read between the lines on that. But it's interesting that not a lot of people recognize that or knew that. Everyone automatically associates using lube with, a problem, not being enough, not being dry enough, not being wet enough, or being too dry. Or, everyone thinks that it's associated with some kind of deficit on their part, and people take it personally, and, they're offended when you want to introduce lube. But when I told people that, it's more of an enhancer and just takes things to the next level, a lot of people, seem to be like they would really be more open to trying something like that. So this recording that I did in the streets of Manhattan, in the train stations of Manhattan, is going to be super interesting. So make sure that you keep your eyes peeled. And I would really love to hear back from you all with regards to, what do you think about this? Are you good? Is your sex life good? Are you orgasming as much as your partner? And the other interesting thing that I found is there doesn't seem to be the same discordance with the gays. And I can say the gays because I'm gay. But lesbian women seem to be at about 60% with regards to orgasming with sex. And I want to say that the male gays were at around, maybe 66%. Yeah, so just slightly higher, but there wasn't that huge discrepancy that you see amongst the heterosexual population. And so it's like, why is that? Is there better communication with the gays? Who knows? I don't know. And we do use lube. I'm just saying. So chime in. Let me know what you think about any of the stats that I just, ran off to you. I would love to get your feedback. So, hit me up on IG, Twitter, Facebook, send me an email. You know where to find me, www.askdrangela.com. That's AskDrangela.com. I want to hear from you. And as is the use, thank you so much for your continued support. I love, love, love hearing from you. If you happen to have a query, question, or topic that you want addressed in the podcast, hit me up. Again, www.askdrangela.com. Direct message me. Go to the website, and all of my social media venues are there. So just, reach out. Also, check out my new friends, my girls at Improper Etiquette. Check out the podcast. They are really amazing ladies, keeping it real. Again, it was an absolute pleasure being on their podcast. For those of you that signed up to be reviewers for my book, you should be getting something from my editor very soon. If you're interested in being a reviewer for my book, it's still not too late. Just shoot me an email, and I'm happy to send you a copy for preview. Otherwise, what else? Sign up for the blog post. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, sign up for the podcast. And just, keep doing what you're doing. I'm going to leave you with, as usual, a word of inspiration. And this comes from one of my favorite books, Life's Little Instruction Book. Lesson 213 says, don't waste time grieving over past mistakes. Learn from them and move on. Learn from them and move on. Until next time, look better, feel better, be better. I cannot wait to reconnect with you on episode 288 of the Ask Dr. Angela podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Ask Dr. Angela podcast. For more information on women's health and the show notes for this episode, please visit Dr. Angela at www.askdrangela.com. While you're there, Don't forget to leave your own message for Dr. Angela. See you soon! All of the information provided and discussed in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and should not take the place of consulting a physician. This podcast is not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any disease or illness and does not and should not replace treatment from a medical professional.